Welcome back to Bestowal Talks, where real practitioners break down the toughest problems in technology, supply chain, and digital transformation, minus the jargon and the fluff. Every episode, we take you inside the challenges that teams struggle with but rarely talk about openly. The bottlenecks, the hidden inefficiencies, the blind spots in processes, and more importantly, the breakthroughs that turn things around. Today, we're diving into a topic that sits quietly in the background but shapes decisions across the entire organization. A challenge every leader face but very few discuss with full honesty. And joining us is an expert who has lived, solved, and transformed this challenge across multiple enterprises. So, let's get straight into it. We often hear about digital transformation as this lofty, abstract concept. But today, we're going into the trenches. We're talking about a problem that is invisible to the consumer, but keeps CEOs awake at night. The inventory paradox. Imagine a global giant with nearly $500 million in stock, yet they still can't fulfill a simple order in Berlin or Chicago. Joining me is Vishal, a veteran SAP IBP consultant. Vishal, you've seen this chaos firsthand. Why is inventory the most misunderstood asset on the balance sheet?
Thanks, Emily. It's great to be here. Inventory is misunderstood because most people treat it as a result, the leftovers of what you didn't sell. In reality, inventory is a strategic variable. If managed correctly, it's a competitive weapon. If managed poorly, it's a graveyard for cash. I've seen planners working 80-hour weeks in Excel, physically exhausted because they are fighting a system that wasn't designed for the modern world. Today, I want to show you how we move from that exhaustion to actual control.
Let's set the stage. You worked with a multinational operating across North America, EMEA, and APAC. They looked successful on paper. USD 420 million in inventory. What was actually happening when you opened the hood?
It was a total lack of synchronized visibility. The company had grown through acquisitions, inheriting a patchwork quilt of legacy ERP systems. They were suffering from a classic bullwhip effect. When a customer in New York increased their order by 5%, that signal traveled through a local DC, then a regional hub, then a global planner, and finally to a factory in China. By the time it hit the factory, that 5% signal had been distorted into a 40% production increase. The result? Warehouses at 98% capacity, filled with C-class items, slow-moving spare parts and old versions, while the A-class bestsellers were consistently out of stock. They were literally full of the wrong stuff. They were drowning in physical volume while starving for liquid availability.
You mentioned the CFO's reaction earlier. USD 18 million in write-offs. That's a massive hit to the bottom line. How do these numbers hide for so long?
They hide in the cost of goods sold, COGS. When you look at the income statement, you see the write-offs, but you don't see the carrying cost. Industry standards tell us it costs 20% to 25% of the item's value just to store it for a year. Insurance, labor, taxes, and warehouse utilities. For this company, that was an invisible USD 80-90 million tax they were paying on their own inefficiency. Then there's panic logistics. They spent USD 6.5 million on expedited freight. Every time there was a stockout, they'd fly heavy components across the ocean. They were erasing the profit of the sale just to keep the customer. When we quantified the total cost of inefficiency, including the opportunity cost of the USD 60 million in blocked working capital, the number was closer to USD 100 million in annual value destruction. The business was growing, but its return on assets, ROA, was in a death spiral.
Why couldn't they solve this with the tools they already had? They had smart people and massive spreadsheets.
Because Excel is deterministic. It operates on averages. If a supplier says the lead time is 30 days, Excel assumes it is exactly 30 days. But the real world is stochastic. It's full of probability. The spreadsheets use the standard formula, but that formula breaks in a global network. It assumes each warehouse is an island. They were using single-echelon optimization, meaning the local warehouse and the central hub were both holding safety stock for the same risk. This is stock doubling. It's like buying two insurance policies for the same car. They were trying to solve 21st century network complexity with 20th century static math.
Take us into that boardroom. How did the CFO realize this wasn't just a warehouse problem?
It was the free cash flow, FCF. Despite record sales, they were running out of cash. The CFO saw that their inventory turnover ratio was 25% lower than their competitors. This meant the competitors were leaner, faster, and had more cash to spend on marketing and R&D. We showed the board a waterfall chart of their inventory. The gap between their theoretical minimum and actual stock was USD 100 million. The realization hit. This wasn't an execution problem. It was a planning and design problem. They had designed a system that required high inventory to survive. To fix the cash flow, they had to redesign the logic of the entire supply chain.
This is where SAP IBP comes in. What is the secret sauce of the inventory optimization module?
It's Multi-Echelon Inventory Optimization, MEIO. Instead of looking at links in a chain, it looks at the entire graph. It uses advanced stochastic algorithms to solve for the lowest total cost across the network. It asks, should I hold stock at the factory, the hub, or the regional DC? Usually, the answer is to hold stock at a central mother hub and use postponement. This allows you to respond to demand spikes anywhere in the world without overstocking every individual location. It finds the efficiency frontier, the perfect balance between the cost of stock and the cost of a stockout.
A global rollout sounds like a nightmare. How did you actually build this without breaking the business?
We followed a strict three-phased architecture. 1. End-to-end network modeling, the digital twin. We mapped every factory, DC, and transit lane. We found hidden lead times, like 5-day delays in quality inspection that were never in the records. 2. Product and service level segmentation. We stopped treating every SKU the same. We used ABC XYZ analysis. High revenue stars got 98% service levels. Erratic dogs got 90%. This unlocked millions in capital immediately. 3. Statistical safety stock optimization. We replaced static numbers with dynamic calculations. In one region, we dropped safety stock from 21 days to 11 days, and service levels actually went up. That's the power of data-driven math.
9 months later, what were the hard numbers?
The transformation was undeniable. Inventory reduced by USD 48 million. Service levels jumped from 87% to 96%. Obsolescence dropped by 35%, and expedited freight costs were cut in half. But the real win was the cash flow. By releasing that USD 48 million, the company paid off high interest debt and funded a new product line in APAC. They stopped buying their revenue with emergency air freight and started designing their profit through precision planning. They moved from being reactive to resilient.
What happened to the planners? Did they feel replaced by the algorithm?
Initially, there was algorithm anxiety. They didn't trust the computer. We had to move from black box to glass box planning. We showed them the driver analysis, the why behind every number. Today, their lives are different. They no longer spend 7 hours a day in data hell downloading CSVs. They use exception-based planning. The system alerts them to the 1% of SKUs that are at risk. They spend their time on scenario modeling. If a port strike is looming, they run a what-if simulation and present a business case to leadership in minutes. They've moved from firefighters to value architects.
Does this change how the rest of the company views the supply chain?
Absolutely. Supply chain moved from the basement to the boardroom. It's now a strategic capability. Because they have data-backed confidence, they are the heartbeat of the S&OP process. When sales wants to run a promotion, supply chain can instantly show the cost and inventory impact. It's no longer a game of gut feel and shouting, it's a game of data and collaboration. The company's DNA shifted from siloed defense to global network optimization.
One big question I get from listeners is about data. You can't run advanced math on dirty data. How did you handle the mess?
This is where most projects fail. People spend 3 years cleaning data and never get to the optimization. Our approach was clean while you optimize. We used SAP IBP to identify the garbage. If a lead time was recorded as 0, the system flagged it. By seeing the impact of bad data on their inventory levels, the business finally had the motivation to fix the source systems. It became a virtuous cycle. The optimization drove the data quality, and the data quality improved the optimization.
Where does this go next? Is AI the final step?
The next frontier is self-healing supply chains. We're moving toward a system that doesn't just alert a human, but actually executes the fix, automatically rebalancing stock between warehouses or adjusting a production schedule. And importantly, we're adding sustainability into the math. In the future, SAP IBP won't just optimize for cost and service. It will optimize for carbon footprint. We'll be able to see the CO2 cost of an air freight shipment versus a sea shipment in real time.
If a VP of supply chain is listening and feels overwhelmed, what are your 3 golden rules?
1. Inventory is a design issue. If you have too much stock, you don't have an execution problem, you have a network design problem. 2. Stop optimizing silos. If your regions aren't talking, you're losing money. Multi-echelon is the only way to win. 3. Math empowers people. The tool doesn't replace the planner. It gives the planner the superpowers to make better business decisions.
Vishal, this has been an absolute masterclass. You've taken a complex mathematical topic and showed us the human and financial heart of it.
My pleasure, Emily. I hope this helps companies realize that their inventory is their greatest opportunity.
That brings us to the end of another powerful conversation on Bestowal Talks. If there's one thing today's discussion makes clear, it's this. Real transformation doesn't start with tools. It starts with visibility, design, and the courage to rethink how work gets done. Whether you're a business leader, planner, consultant, or someone building the next breakthrough solution, the insights we covered today are stepping stones to making your systems smarter, your team stronger, and your decisions sharper. So, before you leave, hit subscribe to stay updated with more insightful conversations on SAP, supply chain, AI, and digital transformation. Thank you for tuning in. If this episode sparked an idea, a question, or a new way of looking at your operations, that's exactly what we aim for. Until next time, stay curious, stay data-driven, and keep building what's next with Bestowal Talks.